essentially anything that you'd be able to give a human agent to understand and to action upon, you'd be able to give our AI agent.
Welcome to Partner Path, a podcast that unpacks the venture capital and growth equity ecosystem from a junior perspective. Young entrepreneurs and investors have already had a massive impact on the industry, having started unicorns and launched billion-dollar funds. We discuss these success stories and more by sharing perspectives and advice from some of the industry's most prominent role models. This podcast expresses our views as of the date published and does not represent the views of and is not endorsed by any company for which we work. Before we get to the episode, Laura and I are excited to announce a partnership with Overlap. Fresh out of Y Combinator's summer batch, Overlap is an AI-driven app that uses large language models to curate the best moments from podcast episodes. Imagine having a smart assistant who reads through every podcast transcript, finds the best parts or parts most relevant to your search, and strings them together to form a new, curated stream of content. That is what Overlap does. I personally use Overlap to explore content on future podcast guests and highly recommend it as another diligence tool for investors. Check out Overlap on the App Store today.
Today we are chatting with Bihan Jiang, product lead at Decagon. After graduating from Stanford, Bihan joined Scale, working across product and engineering. Now Bihan is working at the cutting edge of Gen AI for customer support. Welcome, Bihan.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you. So you grew up in Texas before moving to Palo Alto to study computer science at Stanford. What did you think of what you were going to do post-graduation compared to what you actually did?
So growing up in Texas, I didn't really have a lot of people who worked in tech or in startups around me. And so growing up, I knew I wanted to do something in the STEM field. I was always very good at math and science. And so I went to a boarding school focused on math and science. I did a lot of research in high school, and so at one point I thought maybe I would become a doctor. Some of the most interesting projects that I worked on in high school were at the intersection of computer science and some of the research I was doing. Just seeing the power of being able to create things so quickly made me have pretty high conviction that I actually wanted to do computer science instead.
I'm sure even for your personal life too. You're like, oh, I can code a very useful application. I can just build it myself.
I think that was one of the things that was most appealing about it, just the speed at which we could iterate and ship things and kind of turn ideas into reality with no blockers but myself.
And I'm sure now you see the rise of AI generative coding tools, and you're like, oh wow, now I can move 50 times at the pace that I could move at 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually something that I've encountered recently, especially working on product, thinking about how the role has evolved over the past couple of years from when I first started as a product manager to now being much more of an AI-empowered PM, just being able to be like 10 times as effective.
I'd love to unpack that a little more. What do you define as being an AI-powered PM?
There are a lot of parts of the product role that historically were very repetitive or tedious or involved much more information gathering and synthesis. So things like doing user research or doing market research or competitor analysis or looking at or scoping out the different features that we would want to build. A lot of it would require a lot of manual time, going through a lot of documentation, reading a lot of content. But now with AI, that's something that has been able to be automated a lot. And so the time that I spend doing the research or synthesizing notes or like managing communication across different people has been able to decrease a lot. Another area in which AI has really empowered me as a product manager and former engineer is using AI coding tools to actually prototype very quickly.
Can you name any specific ones you like?
Yes, one of the tools that I use almost on a daily basis is Cursor. And so right now, because I am doing a lot of product work as well as design work, I'm able to iterate much more quickly using coding as an interface for prototyping versus actually drawing things out or whiteboarding or trying to make low fidelity mocks in design tools.
We'll get into Decagon and your specific role, but one question before, is this typical for a product lead at a Series B startup to be actively coding? And maybe typical is not the right word, but is this, when you describe the product role, what does that mean to you? And maybe it's slightly different just because when you're at a fast-paced startup, you're wearing all hats. So therefore you have to be dynamic. And if you're technical, I'm sure you have to leverage your technical skills, like you said, design skills because of the product.
The way that I see the product role evolving, especially at these fast-paced AI startups, is sort of merging over time with a lot of the design and engineering aspects. So I think product people who have a technical background definitely have an advantage in being able to just iterate a lot more quickly. But being technical doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a computer science degree or have spent years as an engineer. I think it's something that all product people can develop pretty quickly, just spending time daily using these foundation models, learning how different models could be used for different use cases, and then just building things and trying to ship things themselves. With a lot of the tools that are now out there today, the barrier to entry is so much lower. So you don't need to have spent multiple years coding to be able to quickly prototype using some of these new tools.
Yeah. Maybe let's touch on, I guess, what drew you to Decagon, specifically being the first product hire.
Just a little bit of background about how I've been progressing in my AI journey so far. After high school, I went to Stanford University to study computer science. So I did both my undergrad and my master's degree in computer science. In undergrad, I was really drawn to a lot of the core fundamentals of computer science, like, how did the nitty-gritty work for like operating systems, and so I concentrated in systems. But then around when I was in college, AI just really started to become very hot again. And so I took a lot of AI classes and ended up doing my master's in AI. Through that process, I learned a lot more about different AI companies, different AI startups. And prior to Stanford, but after knowing that I wanted to do computer science, I had always assumed I would maybe go into like a large tech company. But near the end of my time at Stanford, I really started learning more about startups and AI in general. And that's how I ended up first at Scale AI, where I was an engineer and then a product manager across all of their different business units. And then when I was at Scale AI, it was really interesting because I was able to see how our work there was impacting the end models themselves. So we would partner with a lot of the different foundation model labs, a lot of the builders in the AI space. And it was really interesting to see like how the data that we were providing were improving model performance like months down the line. And as I spent more time in that space, just really seeing how much these models were capable of, I think the next step in my journey, I really wanted to work on the application side of AI. And so that's what really drew me to Decagon, because Decagon was building really cutting edge AI agents for an industry that was really, really large and impacting, millions of people every day. Historically, when users think about writing into customer support, a lot of the time it's equated with bad experiences, long waiting times. And
You think about the airline customer service chatbots.
Yeah, exactly.
Where nothing gets resolved.
And it's like a toss-up of whether your issue is resolved or not, or if you even get the right answers. And so I think that was one industry where it was such a big opportunity for AI to make an impact, and especially AI agents who are able to take actions on behalf of users and not have to make users wait.
Definitely. Okay, that's a great transition into Decagon. Maybe touch on like the pain point within customer support that Decagon is solving for, and would love to learn more about how you're implementing AI.
So the customer support and service and experiences space is, really large. It's an area that most companies actually care quite deeply about because it is really critical that they provide their customers a great experience, and no one wants their customers to churn. And so being able to provide a high quality experience is actually a huge differentiator for a lot of companies. And as these companies are growing, it's hard to scale up accordingly and keep on providing the level of service and personalization to their users. And so Some of the common pain points in customer service are people having to wait really long times for a member representative to get to them. If the products or the companies are very complex or have a lot of edge cases, it takes a lot of time for the member service agents to be ramped up and really know how to answer their questions or know what to do on behalf of the user. And a lot of these cases, that leads to frustrating customer experiences because they have to wait a long time. They're not necessarily getting the right resolution. They might need to get transferred between multiple people before someone knows what to do. And a lot of the times previously, writing into customer support and waiting on the line was equated with feelings of dread or having to carve out really a lot of time on a weekend to stay on the phone with someone. And there was just such a huge opportunity for AI agents to make an impact here, to provide users with immediate, actionable support and maintains a company's brand guidelines.
What about AI or the LLMs today has enabled you and the team to build Decagon?
After 2022 and early 2023, I think there was really a huge jump in the capabilities of large language models. First, they're able to just have much more context, so you can provide a lot more information about the end user and the context of the company and any relevant information. But secondly, they're also able to have better reasoning. And so it's actually quite complex resolving a customer's inquiry because there are multiple moving parts. And models have gotten good enough where by piecing a lot of the different parts together and using different models or fine-tuning different models for different parts of the AI agent, we're able to actually create a very human-like experience where oftentimes people don't even realize that they're talking to an AI agent.
Under the hood, what are you connecting with within the customer, and how do you gain their trust?
We're able to first really understand deeply what the customer has experienced before. So similarly to how a human agent would be able to review past interactions and kind of build up a context of this customer's story and their history with the company, our AI agents are also able to do that. Essentially anything that you'd be able to give a human agent to understand and to action upon, you'd be able to give our AI agent. And so traditionally, these human agents, they would be trained with a lot of manuals or standard operating procedures, and they would have onboarding and take time to learn all the different products and use cases across the company. You can imagine our AI agent can do all the exact same things and has access to taking actions on behalf of the user. So for example, for a lot of people writing into customer support, they might be asking about, what's the status of my order? It's marked as pending, but it's been that way for a week. What's the actual status? Or if their order has, missing parts, they would be able to request a refund or request that the missing parts get shipped out to them. And so because our AI agent is able to build up all that context and also action on behalf of users, it actually eliminates the need for, in a lot of cases, these cases to be escalated to a human.
Touch on the types of customers you're working on today and how they're measuring Decagon.
So currently we partner with a lot of customers across different industries, including financial services, consumer, B2B, retail, travel and entertainment. And a lot of what they're using Decagon for is to elevate their customer experience. For a lot of these companies, they think about customer experience and customer service as a key differentiator for why their products and why their companies are a better choice for their customers. And so we're able to play a part in that and help them build their brand and build their identity around that. And we think of ourselves more as a partner in that way rather than just a vendor.
Now, a quick word from our sponsor. Laura and I are thrilled to announce a partnership with Grata, an intuitive deal sourcing and diligence platform. Keep missing out on private market deals? Ditch the Rolodex and get Grata. Grata's AI-powered platform provides accurate data, deep insights, and time-saving workflows that help get more deals done. And it's trusted by over 500 firms and 3,000 deal makers, including myself. I've personally used Grata in both my deal sourcing and diligence workflows and would recommend their tool to any investor across private equity, growth equity, corp dev, or investment banking. We've negotiated a special offer for our audience. Mention PartnerPath to the Grata team during sign-up, and you'll get free executive seats for your partners and MDs included in your subscription. Now, back to the episode.
So are people like measuring you on before we had this number of inquiries, now we have this, before our customer service was impacting top line growth in this way, now it's impacting it this way, related to like churn? What are some of the different metrics that people evaluate Decagon on?
The different metrics that people really care about in the customer support space, there's a few main ones. So first is the deflection or like automation rate. So that's the percentage of cases where the AI can handle and you don't need to have a human in the loop. Of course, there's always going to be some cases where you do need a human. For example, in financial services or healthcare, you may never want to be able to provide financial advice or health advice or medical advice. And so in those cases, you would still want to have a human touch. But that automation or deflection rate is something that directly impacts the load on their human agents. And so that's one number that people care a lot about. And the second is some sort of customer satisfaction score. So this can either be CSAT or sometimes people measure as like net promoter score, but essentially some metric to measure how satisfied customers are with the service that they're getting. And so across all of our customers, actually, as soon as they implement Decagon, they're able to see like a much higher deflection or automation rate and also much higher CSAT or NPS scores.
Do you see a world where the future of customer support via agents is almost an AGI agent where it can handle 100% of inquiries autonomously?
In the near to medium term, I think we actually don't want to automate 100% of these inquiries. I think a lot of what we're able to help our partners do is have them focus their human agents on just the most high touch or strategic parts of customer service or customer support. We want to be able to handle all of the types of questions where you don't necessarily need a human involved or something that is like very standard. But for anything that is much more personal or like building a relationship with the brand, there still is an aspect of the human touch that makes it better.
What about audio? A lot of customer support interactions now are people calling in. And 2025 will be a massive year for some of the tailwinds that we're going to see with video, audio, image models in general, multimodal capabilities. Is that something that Decagon's venturing into?
We're currently working with a lot of design partners on our voice product. So that's something that we're really excited for. Yeah, like you mentioned, there are a lot of segments of customers whose primary way of preferring to contact customer support is through calling in. And so being able to provide a really seamless experience there without having to build out a whole net new product is something that actually our customers really enjoy. And so the way that the Decagon product works is you are building up your brain over time of the AI agent, but this AI agent can work across all different channels. So not just chat, but also email and SMS and voice as well. And so the effort and work that goes into making that AI agent really good at one specific channel is not wasted and can be reused to be applied to other channels as well.
And how do you ensure accuracy or reliability?
Ensuring accuracy and reliability and adherence to what the companies really value is something that we partner very closely with our customers on. And so during the implementation phase, we really make a point to understand deeply, what do our customers care about? Like, how do they want their brand to be represented? So we're able to customize the agent together in a way that feels very representative of their brand. And we work really closely with them to make sure that we're handling all of the types of questions or inquiries or workflows in a way that are adhering to what the customers expect. And so we have a lot of guardrails in place to make sure that people aren't able to attack the agent or get it to reveal things that it shouldn't, especially as we're working with a lot of these large enterprise companies. They have very strict requirements for, data control and being able to see PII. And so because we're working with a lot of these like financial service companies or large enterprises, we've built a lot of guardrails and infrastructure in place to be able to handle a lot of the security and testing requirements.
I think 3 areas where AI has really exploded and showing tangible benefits are, I think, customer support, which you've been touching on for the last 20 minutes, sales, just general outreach and automating some of the BD work today, and coding, which we've also touched on. But going a little bit deeper, all of these spaces have exploded with so many players. On the coding side, you have people who are open sourcing it, and you have people who are the cursor model, which is $20 per user per month, that have also just exploded in revenue growth last year. Sales, also a ton of players, which you could name. And customer support, you're seeing a ton of players, but you're seeing certain players break out of the pack, one being Decagon. But I'm wondering if you're pitching to a customer today, what is the pitch to say, come with me over a Sierra or someone else in the space?
I think there's definitely a lot of players in the space, but where I think we really differentiate and where our customers really enjoy working with us on is, first, we treat every customer as like a long-term Gen AI partnership, not just a vendor who's building out like a support use case for them. And so we're just getting started as a company, but we've been able to prove with our customers like a lot of immediate ROI because we are building everything in a very customer-centric way. We provide a lot of guardrails and also observability into our AI agents. And so I think as a key differentiator, we are very transparent and like not a black box. Customers really, really care about understanding exactly why AI agents are taking the actions they are, following the workflows they are, and sort of line by line, exactly the reasoning behind everything that they do. And so we're able to provide that full level of transparency and control to our customers, and also partner with them to make every interaction feel like very custom to their enterprise. So that personalization and observability and transparency is something that our customers really appreciate. And the second thing that I think makes us really stand out is just speed of implementation and execution. We're able to launch live with customers in less than a couple of weeks, and they're able to immediately automate and resolve a lot of their inquiries and immediately provide more leverage to their teams.
That's awesome in terms of going into production. What was the thought process behind a horizontal solution versus vertical solution? And I bring it up because another area that's been impacted in the customer support, or maybe just like the voice space, is restaurants and selling to restaurant franchises. And you have companies just focused on that vertical. But Decagon and honestly many others are choosing to go after, as we mentioned earlier, healthcare, financial services, technology companies. What was the thought there?
This is where we have done a lot of, user research, customer research, and just talked to a lot of people across the space. Honestly, there's a lot of things that are just shared across this customer service space, even within different industries. And so what we've been able to do is actually build out a very, very generalized solution that can then be customized per vertical or per customer. When we were building out a lot of the initial product, we were always sort of keeping in mind, how can this be more of like building blocks that we can piece together to then be the most effective for our customers, regardless of what vertical they're in. And so some pieces of the building blocks, like we might use for certain verticals versus others. For example, financial services, where they need to have PII redacted or have information flagged if customers are asking about a certain thing. In working with those types of customers, we've built out a lot of, financial service related infrastructure. So for example, like flagging systems and information redaction, but that's not necessarily a building block that all of our customers need, and that's okay.
I think another area that you will not find a shortage of articles written about is the pricing model for agents. Maybe we can just touch on broadly many debates about the traditional SaaS model going by the wayside as we're in this new wave of agents, and how do you price for it? I don't think there's like a clear answer right now. I mean, outcome-based pricing, and I think there's some consumption-based pricing that makes a lot of sense, but I'm curious your thoughts on pricing generally for agents, and if you have an opinion, and then how Decagon chose to price.
So first, I think because AI agents are sort of revolutionizing how everyone is thinking about labor, I think it's definitely a really interesting topic. The way that I see it is these agents are actually able to do work that's comparable to some levels of human. Mm-hmm. And so traditionally you might pay like a lot of money for certain like pieces of labor to be done. And so now there's all this value that like AI agents are able to capture. How much of that value exactly in the long run will be able to be captured by the AI agents in a pricing model, I am less confident on. But I think at least if we measure just purely based on like the value that AI agents are able to provide, I think they're well worth their money. And I think a lot of people who don't understand the space think, oh, like these are just L wrappers, like it's very easy to build, and therefore maybe there should not be as much, money given to like the application layer. But I actually disagree, because once you really dig deep into the industry and like have worked across customer service in a lot of different use cases, you realize just like how much of a long tail there is in solving all of these problems, and like how much infrastructure and technology actually has to go into it to make a solution that feels very human and seamless.
So it seems like people should buy, not build.
That's a good point. There's definitely some customers who initially actually did want to try building in-house, and people that we talk to who initially do want to build. I think it's really hard unless your company is like solely sort of focused on customer service, or that's such a core part of your business that you need absolute control over. Some of the challenges that we've seen people face when trying to build in-house are, first, the tech is evolving so rapidly, right? And maybe you build a one-time solution and it works like okay, but it's something that you have to dedicate, a pretty large team to continuously like maintaining and also staying on the edge of what's possible. And so for a lot of teams, it just doesn't really make sense to have a whole team dedicated to building out this solution and keeping up with all of the best practices. Because we've worked across so many industries and have become experts in like the customer service space, we're able to take a lot of these best practices and be more of a thought partner and a thought leader for our customers, and kind of advise them more on actually how they should be thinking about customer support and how they should best leverage our products as well.
How do you take that and inform product roadmap decisions?
In terms of product roadmap decisions, first, there's obviously, the most important thing is what our customers care about. Like, we're a very customer-centric company, so at the end of the day, we just want to help our customers be as successful as possible. And so whatever that means in terms of, them needing a specific product feature, or there's something that we see as a gap in their current process that we could help fill, that is like the high level of like what informs what we're building.
But it's probably hard because you guys are a fast growing startup, but you're still in the early days. So in terms of devoting resources to building out features or specific integration, I'm sure you have to see if it's applicable across like different use cases or types of customers.
Yeah. And so like one way that we do prioritize is, how many customers are asking for it, like how much impact will this have across all of our existing customers or prospects. But the other is, we just want to be able to drive a lot of value for our customers. So if there are features which we know will drive a lot of value, that's also cases where we really prioritize them.
What's like an exciting feature you released last year?
One of the really exciting features that we released so far that I think actually a lot of our teams have been adopting is our whole QA suite. And so in customer service and in the AI agent building process, there is a lot that needs to happen around actually like monitoring and iterating on the agent, especially when you're first deploying it. And so as our customers are testing initially or rolling out new versions of their agents, one of the really common workflows that we were seeing is they would want to audit, what the agent was saying, seeing how customers were interacting with it, and then using that to sort of like fine tune the agent. And so we saw a lot of these QA workflows happening, and it would be a little bit painful initially to close that feedback loop very quickly. And so that's why we built out a whole QA suite that lives within our product, so that the support teams, the product teams, and also like the QA teams can all interact in one platform, be able to iterate on and action on any feedback very fast, and also keep all of that synthesized somewhere where they're able to refer to.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I would love to touch on how you think about, managing teams now, and how you think about your personal career evolving.
One of the great things about the AI space and AI agents especially is it's such a young field, and there's actually not much advantage that people get from being in the industry for like 10 plus years. And so one of the things that's really exciting for me is being able to be so deep in AI from basically the beginning of my career.
Yeah, scale is great.
Yeah, I've been able to really, I think, develop a deep understanding of, how these models are working, like having worked on the data side for so long, like having a really nuanced understanding of like what models are good at, what models are not good at, edge cases that models may run into, and also having more of an intuition around what capabilities could be upcoming or what could be possible in the near to medium term, I think has been really valuable in helping me understand, like how our product direction should go, like what we should be building, how we can anticipate what people might want like a few months or like a few years down the line.
If you could go back and tell yourself any piece of advice before starting at Decagon, like what would you have told yourself?
I think as someone who is, really high achieving and has always held a very high standard for myself, I have, always wanted to have the answer to everything and always wanted to know exactly, what I was talking about, knowing exactly what we should be building, knowing exactly and having like really full control over what's happening. But I think in a space like AI agents that's just growing and changing so quickly, you have to be okay with doing a lot of experimentation and being okay with failing a lot of times. And so instead of really putting all your eggs in one basket or like really having like super strong conviction of, this is exactly what we need to be building, I think in this new age of AI agents and like building very quickly and iterating very quickly, it's now also possible to try, 10 different things, find the one or two things that have the most promise and double down on them. And so being okay with like failing 8 times, but like really honing in on the things that do work.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Are you hiring for your team right now, or have you thought about hiring? And how do you think about mapping out those roles?
And so we're definitely growing really quickly right now. When I joined to now, we've almost doubled in size. And so now we're building out the product and design team as well. So a lot of the sort of key characteristics that I think would make someone successful in a role like product or design at an early stage AI company is just being really scrappy and being really willing to experiment and iterate and be okay with not being perfect. I think especially in a product or design role, oftentimes you may not want to put your ideas out in public or for review until they've been really fleshed out or refined. But I think the types of people who are able to be very successful here are, one, able to have like a strong intuition of different possible directions, and then iterate and like create prototypes or MVPs of a bunch of different things to get user feedback and then use that to inform where they should dig deeper into.
Awesome. Well, do you want to end with a quick fire round?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. What is an emerging agentic category you're excited about outside of CS?
We touched upon this a little bit already, but I'm really excited for the power of AI-assisted coding. And especially for me, because I spend a lot of my time actually prototyping and turning the ideas in my head into like product specs or mocks or like prototypes. AI-assisted coding has been a game changer for me in that category. Previously, a workflow might take 10 hours to like write out all of my ideas and then whiteboard and then turn them into like low fidelity mocks. But that can be 10x faster now.
Do you see us nearing AGI?
I personally think we are still pretty far from AGI. Because I work with these foundation models every day, I can quickly run into all of the limitations. And so even though when, as a user, you're interacting with AI systems and you might be really impressed by the experiences, there's still so many edge cases and things where, a human would be able to obviously do, but an AI is not able to handle. So I think before, all of those cases are able to be solved, and there's like kind of an infinite long tail of those cases, I think the AI that we're interacting with won't feel perfectly human.
Favorite product resources?
One of my favorite product resources, and this might be like a very popular answer, is just like Lenny's podcast.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
I love Lenny's podcast. There's actually been a lot that I've learned from his episodes, especially he's made a lot of content around being like an AI PM, how to, think about like product roles evolving in this new age, and also just have a lot of actionable insights into how to build a team and like lead a product.
Awesome. Thank you, Bihan. This was fun.
Yeah, thank you.